Perhaps the most important questions you will ever ask and answer in your life are, who am I? Why am I here? What do I really want to do with my life? Your natural state is to be happy, healthy, joyful, and full of excitement. Because you are alive, you should wake up each morning eager to begin your day. You should feel wonderful about yourself and the relationships in your life as a fully functioning, mature adult. You should do things every day that will move you forward toward reaching the realization of your fullest potential. You should be grateful for all of your blessings in every area of your life. If for any reason you don't feel or think this way most of the time, it may mean that something is not right with the way you think, feel, or react to life. Your primary goal is to organize your life in such a way that you feel happy, joyful, and fulfilled most of the time. Eliminate the negative or pessimistic thoughts, beliefs, ideas that are holding you back, and adopt a positive, winning mindset. This book teaches you how to achieve this with the strategies that the most successful and happy people use to achieve what they want. You are a masterpiece. Let me tell you a story. In the Academy Gallery at Florence, Italy is home to Michelangelo's David, perhaps the most beautiful sculpture in the world. People come from all over the planet to admire it. The emotional power of the sculpture is almost overwhelming when you are first in its presence. Where it came from, so the story goes, around 1501, Michelangelo was commissioned to create a statue for Florence Cathedral that would stand out from all other works of art. It was later placed in the Piece of them Ignoria. He worked on this statue in the courtyard of the Opera del Duomo from 1501 to 1504 in complete secrecy. When this incredible work of art was unveiled in a huge public ceremony attended by thousands of people, a gasp of astonishment arose from the crowd. They immediately recognized that this was perhaps the most beautiful piece that had ever been created. Michelangelo was later asked how he was able to sculpt something so beautiful. He explained that he was walking towards his studio one morning, as he usually did when he happened to look down a side street, where lay a large piece of marble brought down from the mountains, overgrown with grass and bushes. He had walked down that street many times, but this time he stopped and examined the large piece of marble. Circling it several times, he suddenly realized that this was exactly the piece of marble he had been looking for to create the statue that the Medici wanted. He had it loaded and taken to his courtyard. There, he worked on the piece for the next 4 years to create the David. He later said, "I saw the David in the piece of marble from the beginning. My only job from there was to remove everything that was not David until only perfection remained. In the same sense, you're like David trapped in the marble. The great goal of your life is to remove all those fears, doubts, insecurities, negative emotions, and beliefs that hold you back until all that is left is the best version of you." We live today in one of the greatest times in human history. There are more opportunities and possibilities for you to achieve more in every area of your life than ever before, and simply improve year after year. More wealth has been created in the last 25 years than in all of human history, and the total wealth of the world is increasing 4% or more per year today. More people are becoming millionaires and billionaires at a faster rate, going from rags to riches in one generation than at any other time in history. People are also living longer. In 1900, the average life expectancy was 52 years. By 1935, it had risen to 62. Today, the average man lives to 77 years, and the average woman to 80, and these numbers are increasing every year. This means if you take good care of your physical and mental health, you can beat the averages and live to 85, 90, 95, or even older. Your job is to learn what you need to live a long and happy life, and then chip away at it so you can fully participate in the greatest time for humans that has ever existed. Edit a life of quiet desperation. 9. Unfortunately, far too many people, even in this world of abundance and opportunity, continue to live lives of quiet desperation. Instead of being happy, enthusiastic, and optimistic about their life, In the future, many people are still afraid, negative, insecure, worried, angry, and frustrated. They have mental blocks, fears, and frustrations, all rooted in previous experiences that prevent them from achieving their potential and becoming all that they are capable of becoming. Fortunately, today, we know more about the negative emotions and fixed ideas that hold people back from reaching their full potential for success than ever before. Sometimes a single idea or perception that leads you to see yourself and your life differently can transform you in such a way that you will forever feel wonderful about your life. It starts small. Let me tell you my own story. I come from a poor home with no money and few opportunities. When I didn't finish high school, I worked in different trades for several years, washing dishes and digging ditches and wells. In my early 20s, I got into sales, where I eventually became successful, and then into sales management, where I achieved even more. By the time I turned 30, my life was changing, and I was moving forward as my wealth increased. One day, I bought a silver gray Mercedes-Benz 450 with blue leather interior, the car of my dreams. For many years, I managed to negotiate my old car down payment and paid the rest in monthly installments over 5 years. But finally, I had the car that I had wanted. When I took it out on the highway and hit the gas, it started moving faster and faster. So I had to slow down to avoid getting a speeding ticket. After driving this big, powerful car for a year, I took it to be serviced by a mechanic who specialized in Mercedes-Benz repairs. The power of a little change. When I went to pick my car up, the mechanic, Hans, told me that he had found a problem with the carburetor. A previous mechanic had inserted a key part backward, thus reducing the amount of fuel going into the engine. Hans had replaced this part with a new valve and fitted it correctly. He told me, "You will notice the difference." I was already happy and satisfied with my car. It drove very well from my perspective and went as fast as I dared to go on the highway. But this time, when I got in the car, I started it up, and as soon as I touched the gas, it exploded forward like propelled by a rocket. I had to brake sharply to avoid crashing. From that moment on, every time I drove my Mercedes, I had to press very gently on the gas. A slight touch would cause it to shoot off to such a speed that you would have to brake quickly to stop it. And this improvement in performance was due to a small valve inside the carburetor. An idea can stop you. The point is, you're like a beautifully crafted Mercedes, but even if your life is progressing satisfactorily, you may have deep within your thinking a negative memory or block that is preventing you from achieving something extraordinary with your life. When you identify this blockage and remove it, you will progress in just a few weeks or months more than you could have progressed in several years. Imagine you buy a brand new luxury car, beautifully built and designed with precision down to every detail. There's just a problem somehow. During the manufacturing process, a part was fitted incorrectly, causing the brake on your front wheel to lock up and not turn when you hit the gas. Imagine you get into your beautiful and luxurious new car, you turn on the engine and hit the gas. If one front wheel were to lock, what would happen? The car would spin around that front wheel, the rear wheels would steer it forward, but it would go in circles, making no progress. This is the point. All you need is an unconscious block deep within your mind, a negative emotion or memory from a painful past experience, and your life can go around in circles indefinitely, no matter how hard you work on the outside. You will not progress in your finances, your family, your career, or your health as much as you should. The more you work on the outside, the less progress you will make, and the more dissatisfied you will feel. You will just go around in circles. Your biggest obstacles to happiness and success are usually contained in your self-limiting beliefs, those negative beliefs you have about yourself and your potential that are not based in fact, but that you accepted anyway. The key to unlocking your full potential is to challenge these beliefs and replace them with new ones that enhance your life. 11. The truth will set you free. In the following pages, you will learn how to identify those hidden blocks that are holding you back. You will learn how to release vast reserves of energy, enthusiasm, and desire in any direction you choose. You will learn proven ideas and knowledge that can change your life. George Billings, the 19th century humorist, once said, "It is not for a man to know what hurts him, but for him to know what is not true, especially about himself. A great deal of unhappiness and dissatisfaction in your world today, what is holding you back from achieving your greatest success, happiness, achievement, and joy is based on things you think you know, but are not necessarily true. When you change your self-limiting beliefs, you will change your life. Let's get started. 1213, Chapter 1. Why do people stagnate? Growth means change, and change involves risk, going from the known to the unknown. You are a remarkable person with extraordinary potential. Your brain contains 1 trillion cells, each connected to about 20,000 other cells. This means that the possible thoughts you can have, positive or negative, are greater than the number of molecules in the known universe. Right now, you are capable of living a wonderful life full of meaning and purpose, having a positive effect on many people. But before you can realize your full potential for personal greatness, you need to understand who you are and how you got to where you are today. There is no instruction manual for life. So create your own. Imagine you buy the most sophisticated computer in existence, plus many accessories. You take it home, you take it out of the box, and discover to your surprise, there is no instruction manual. You have a modern supercomputer that could perform many complicated tasks, but you don't know how to set it up or use it properly. You are born in much the same way. You come into the world with a beautiful mind loaded with untapped talents and abilities, with the potential to do extraordinary things with your life, but you don't have an instruction manual. You have to work it all out for yourself, and this usually takes years, if not a lifetime. Have you ever wondered how you became the person you are today, with your unique combination of thoughts, feelings, ideas, skills, fears, hopes, ambitions, and aspirations? 14. The magic of changing your thinking. Once said there are 3 types of people: those who think who they think, and then there are those who would rather die than think. The vast majority of people go through life without giving a thought to who they are or how they got to where they are today. As a result, life just happens to them as a series of random events with no explanation and few connections between them. They take the first job they are offered, they do what they are told, and then other people who offer other jobs largely determine their career. They marry the person standing nearby. When they decide they no longer want to be single, they spend their money on what appeals to them and invest in what someone suggests to them. For the average person, life is like the bumper of a car at a carnival, continually being bumped in different directions with very little control. But the fact is, your world is largely created by the thoughts that you think and the things that you do as a result of your thinking. When you improve your thinking, your actions and your results improve. When you change your thinking, you change your life. A few words from Christina, a powerful example of how changing your thinking can change your life, comes from an experience with a client. A man in his 40s came to see me because he realized that he was tired of not feeling happy with his life. He had a good relationship with his wife and 2 happy children, a well-paying job, and a supportive group of family and friends. He just felt like something was missing, and he couldn't appreciate his situation. What I noticed while working with him was that he had an overall pessimistic attitude, which was directly related to his belief that he was not in control of his life. This thinking pattern was causing him to feel anxious and depressed about an impending unknown doom that he couldn't avoid. We separated his life into parts. We identified how and where he controlled his life. I gave him exercises to reinforce this new belief. He began to practicing decision making and carrying out actions that showed he was in control. Over time, he became more relaxed and tolerant. Eventually, his whole attitude changed completely. He became much more optimistic and positive about his life. The turning point for him was when he changed his perception and chose to interpret things differently. He perceived himself as being in control of his choices and decisions, and therefore in control of his future. His life was completely changed. The laws of the mind. There are a number of mental laws and principles that have been discovered and rediscovered throughout history. These laws go a long way to explaining who you are and everything that happens to you. As the authority on success wrote, one of the great secrets of life is to never attempt to violate the laws of nature And to win the law of cause and effect, this law is often referred to as the iron law of the universe. It was first explained by Aristotle in 350 BC at his academy outside Athens and was called the Aristotelian principle of causality. This was at a time when everyone believed that the lives of mortals were determined by the gods they played on Mount Olympus, and that it was nothing more than a series of random events. Aristotle, however, proclaimed that we live in a universe governed by order. He said that everything happens for a reason. Just because we don't know the reason, that doesn't mean that a reason doesn't exist. The law of cause and effect states that for every effect or result in your life, there's a cause or causes. Nothing happens by chance. Even the most random events can be traced back to specific causes or factors. This law also states that if there is an effect that you desire, such as health, happiness, prosperity, or success, you can achieve that effect by creating the causes that bring it about. The easiest way to be successful is to find someone who has already achieved what you desire and then do the same things that this person did over and over again until you get the same results. Exercise. Write down the names of 3 people that you admire, either for who they are or for what they have achieved. What quality do you admire most about each one? How can you develop these qualities? This is the first rule of the law of cause and effect. If you do what successful, happy people do over and over again, there will be nothing to stop you from ultimately getting the same 16 results as them. The rule is if you don't do what successful and happy people do, nothing will be able to help you. The world is full of people who do what unhappy, unsuccessful, and frustrated people do, and then they're surprised to get the same results. But this is not a matter of bad luck, chance, or accident. It is simply a matter of law. If you eat healthy foods, exercise regularly, and take good care of your body, you'll be fit and healthy and have high energy levels. And if you don't do this, you will not be healthy. Everyone understands and agrees with this. It's obvious. It is simply a matter of cause and effect. Your thinking is creative. The most important application of the law of cause and effect is this. Thoughts are causes and conditions are effects. Your thinking is creative. You determine what happens to you by the thoughts you think, especially with those that are charged with emotion, whether positive or negative. Your thoughts are like the computer in a guided missile. They guide you unerringly to your target. Here is a critical point. Once you have initiated the cause, the effect takes place by itself. Once you have pushed the rock down the hill, it rolls. By itself, by the law of gravity, once you have planted a positive or negative seed in your mind, the flowers or weeds will grow. You can control the cause, but the effect happens automatically whether you want it to or not. A few words from Christina. Often, when people come to therapy for the first time, I like to take the time to explore their garden and discover what positive or negative thoughts, ideas, and beliefs have been planted and exist as part of their personal history. Seeds are planted from the moment a person is born by others, and then continue to be planted by us. It is vital to identify what thoughts and ideas already exist so that the patient can decide which plants should remain in the garden and which ones should be removed because they are no longer true for them. From that moment on, the patient's mental garden must be nurtured. It contains all of the thoughts, ideas, and emotions that make up the inner life of a person. Think about success. In a 22-year study at the University of Pennsylvania, 350,000 people were interviewed to discover what they thought most of the time. It turned out that the top 10%, the happiest and most successful of this group, thought in 2 things most of the time: what they wanted and how to get it. They thought about their goals and the actions they could take to achieve them. Exercise. Choose something that you really want now. Imagine that you have already achieved it. Describe how it feels to have achieved your goal, how your life would be different if you achieve something that is important to you, the more successful people thought. about what they wanted and how to get it. The more ideas and insights they received, these ideas motivated them to take even more actions, which moved them faster and faster toward their goals. When they achieved their goals, they felt happier, more motivated, and eager to set even bigger and more challenging goals. By thinking most of the time about what they wanted and how to get it, they set their life on an upward spiral of success and achievement, and you can. 2. The basic principle. The basic principle of all religions, philosophy, metaphysics, psychology, and success is this: you become what you think about most of the time. When you have clear and definite thoughts about what you want, backed up by the positive emotion of enthusiasm, you direct and channel your energy and your activities towards your goals. If your mind, it is a jumble of thoughts, as is the case with most people, you will think about what you want on some occasions and what you don't want on other occasions. You will think about what makes you happy. And what makes you happy, you will think about work, and going home, you will think about sleeping, and waking up, you will think in short-term fun, watching TV, listening to music, and socializing. Because you don't have clear and specific goals, your life just goes around in circles, sometimes for years. Over time, you become what you think most of the time, for better or for worse. 18. The law of belief. The law of belief says that whatever you create with emotion becomes reality. Your beliefs form a screen of bias through which you see your world. In other words, you don't see the world as it is, but as you're. The 19th century University of one psychologist said belief creates the actual fact. Always think about whether you act on your core beliefs, whether they're positive or negative. If you have positive and constructive beliefs, you will make good decisions, you will implement the right measures, and get good results. If you have negative beliefs, fearful or angry, you will take the wrong actions or no action and get negative results. This is simply a matter of law. Exercise. Get a notebook and carry it with you throughout the day. Become aware of how you perceive situations. When you are faced with a decision, do you highlight the positives or consider the negatives? Keep track first of these thought patterns and make a conscious effort to look at things optimistically. Then keep track of how you feel overall about your day. Make sure you write these down. All beliefs are learned. Luckily, all beliefs are learned. Everything you believe today has been taught to you by someone in some way. If you have positive life affirming beliefs, you will have a happy, healthy life. You will be popular and get along with other people. If you hold negative, destructive beliefs, you will be doubtful, fearful, suspicious, negative, and will be in constant conflict with other people in your life. The starting point for personal transformation is to question yourself. Limiting beliefs. Any beliefs you have that suggest you have no limitations in talent, ability, personality, opportunity are usually not true. These are limitations you have imposed on yourself by believing in them. The moment you stop believing that you're limited in any way, your whole life lights up like a sunrise. A few words from Christina, 19. I recently worked with a woman who experienced severe anxiety whenever she was going to have a conversation with a particular coworker. She stated that she felt small and intimidated by this colleague and found it hard to stand up for what she needed or wanted in his presence. I had her imagine feeling very small, insecure, and intimidated, and then I asked her to associate those feelings with an animal. She chose a kitten because they're often shy and harmless. Then I asked her to think of a time when she felt strong, confident, and powerful. I asked her to associate those feelings with an animal. She chose a tiger because tigers are powerful and dangerous. Then I asked her to practice imagining herself as a kitten and then as a tiger. We did this several times until she felt she could easily connect with the feelings she had associated with each animal. She began to practice being her tiger at work and found that the anxiety about speaking to her colleague completely disappeared. I have carried out this particular exercise with several patients, and every time I've been successful, it seems unusual, but taking your self-limiting beliefs and creating a concrete object or animal to represent them allows you to externalize them and become more aware of the mindset that you are operating from. Being able to identify when you're feeling insecure and consciously shift into a state of security and empowerment, give you a sense of control, and increases your self-esteem. Exercise. What are 3 things that you want to do but think you can't do. Why can't you do them? Who tells you that you can't do those things? Who thinks you can? Have you ever tried to do these things, or are you just assuming that you can't do them? The law of expectations. The law of expectations has been discussed frequently over the years. It is used to explain many things that happen in society, including virtually every decision made in the stock market. And in economics, it says whatever you expect with confidence becomes its own self-fulfilling prophecy. If you expect to be happy and successful, you probably will be. If you expect to be popular and liked by others, you will behave in such a way as to make that happen. If you expect to have a wonderful life, contribute to society, and be respected by your family, friends, and colleagues, that too becomes your self-fulfilling prophecy. Perhaps the best attitude you can develop is one of positive expectation, where you live life with confidence, expecting everything to turn out for the best, and you will rarely be disappointed. Most of unhappy people have a negative expectation attitude. They expect to be disappointed, they expect to be cheated, or overburdened. They expect to be unpopular or unloved, and their expectations also come true. You could decide. The good news is you can create your own expectations, whether they are positive or negative. The choice is yours. The only thing you can control in the world is your thinking. If you take control of your thinking, you take complete control of your emotions, your actions, and your destiny. Your expectations are largely formed by your beliefs. If you believe that you are a good person, you will expect to be treated positively, and people will consciously or subconsciously respond to your expectations, whether they're aware of them or not. The law of attraction. This law has been discussed for over 5,000 years. Popular literature suggests that based on this law, you can have anything you desire in life if you visualize and think happy thoughts. Some people think that because of the law of attraction, whatever they want will inevitably be attracted into their life. This explanation is partly true. It is true that your mind is a living magnet. You inevitably attract into your life the people, the resources, and experiences that have your emotion or that are in harmony with your dominant thoughts. Emotion is the key to understanding this law. Your positive or negative emotions are like an electrical charge that influences your magnetism and draws you towards whatever you are emitting. The law of attraction in action. What this law means to you is that when you are absolutely clear about what you want, 21, it sets up an energy field of force that draws it towards you and pulls you towards it. The essential component for this law to work is belief or faith. The slightest doubt or negativity regarding whatever you want will sabotage the process of attracting it into your life. Exercise. Imagine you're going to buy a new car. Decide which car you would like to have and the color of your choice for the next few days. Observe how often you see that car. You will notice it everywhere. The law of sympathetic resonance. There is also a sub-law, the law of sympathetic resonance. According to this law, if you pluck a string on a piano on one side of the room and then walk towards a piano on the other side of the room, the same string will vibrate as the one you plucked on the first piano. In the same way, you will often meet a person with whom you have a sympathetic resonance from the very first moment. You have probably experienced this in your own life. Brand wrote in his book, The Prophet on Love, there must be instant communication at the very first moment of the date, or will never happen. Many people are drawn to the person who becomes their husband or their wife by sympathetic resonance. Your eyes meet across a crowded room, and like magnets, you are drawn towards each other. This experience explains why married couples can almost always remember their first moment meeting. The law of vibration. Another your law, the law of attraction, is the law of vibration, which says that the entire universe is energy in motion, with every substance vibrating at different frequencies. Your thoughts also vibrate at such a fine level that your thought waves can travel through any substance and over long distances instantaneously. Throughout your life, you will have experiences like this. You're talking to a friend who lives in another country, someone you haven't seen in years. In the middle of your conversation, the phone rings, and it turns out to be your friend, and you tell him, in surprise, we were talking about you. This is another example of the law of attraction based on the laws of sympathetic resonance. and vibration, the law of repulsion. The opposite of the law of attraction is the law of repulsion. When you have negative and apprehensive thoughts about money, about how little you have, and how much everything costs, you create a negative force energy field that pushes money and opportunities out of your life. This is the main reason why so many people remain poor their entire lives. Perhaps the worst thing you can do if you want to be financially successful is to criticize other people who are doing well or who are earning more than you. This behavior is usually based on envy and resentment, two of the worst negative emotions. It removes all hope of success from your life. But when you admire successful people, you create that force field of energy that draws successful people to you, which creates opportunities for you to be successful too. The law of correspondence, my favorite law, is the law of correspondence. It says your outer world is a reflection of your inner world. You create the mental equivalent of what you want to see, experience, or enjoy on the inside, and then it materializes as a reflection in your life. That is why the Bible says, as within, so without. Napoleon described to her that to be financially independent, you must develop a prosperity consciousness. Once you have this prosperity consciousness, you will start to see all sorts of opportunities around you to earn more money. You will meet new people, you will read relevant books or articles, doors will open for you, and you will have great ideas that will lead you to the prosperity you desire. Unfortunately, most people have a poverty consciousness. They worry about money all the time. They worry about how much everything costs and thinks it costs too much. They are cautious with their money and distrust other people's intentions, often due to childhood conditioning. Their attitude is, I can't afford this. 23 good reflections. According to the law of correspondence, your outer world of relationships was a reflection of how you feel on the inside. The more you like and respect yourself, the more you will like and respect others, the more you will like your relationships in all areas of your life. Your outer world of health will be a reflection of your inner world of attitudes towards diet, exercise, and personal well-being. If you visualize yourself as fit, slim, and healthy on the inside, you will soon be a fit, slim, and healthy person on the outside. Your outer world of success will be a reflection of your internal preparation, ability to utilize your knowledge and skills. This will quickly reflect in your ability to achieve better, faster results, thereby advancing you in your career. Because of these laws, you become what you think about most of the time. Because of these laws, when you change the way you think, you change your life. And there is no other way. The world is full of unhappy, frustrated people who are convinced that they can change the external aspects of their life without changing their internal mental attitudes. This is simply not possible. The discovery of self-concept is where your thoughts, feelings, beliefs, expectations, and attitudes come from. The discovery of self-concept in the 20th century is the greatest breakthrough in understanding and unlocking human potential that has ever been made. The psychology of self-concept says that every child comes into the world with no self-concept. The philosopher David called it a tabula rasa, or a blank slate. He said that every person starts out with no thoughts, feelings, beliefs, and opinions. Everything you know to be true about yourself and your world has been taught and learned both directly and indirectly from infancy onward. Of course, every child has a certain type of temperament, which is evident at an early age. Every child possesses latent talents and abilities which may or may not develop as they grow into adulthood. But in terms of personality attributes, every child is born with unlimited potential. The newborn 24. The child comes into the world completely helpless, unable to support themselves in any way from the moment of birth. The child needs an uninterrupted flow of unconditional love for healthy development, like roses need rain. The child's worldview of whether they are secure or insecure is largely determined by the way they are treated in the first 3 to 5 years of life. When parents give the child a continuous flow of love, approval, touch, warmth, and security, they develop the belief that they live in a safe world. They are spontaneous and uninhibited. The child is born with only two fears: the fear of loud noises and the fear of falling. All other fears must be taught to the child through repetition. Usually from their parents, as children grow up, they come into the world with two common characteristics. They are uninhibited and spontaneous. They're not afraid of anything. They laugh, they cry, they wet or soil their diapers, they cuddle, they make loud or strange noises, and do whatever they feel like. Because children are spontaneous, they're not caught up in worries about what others might think or feel about their actions or decisions. They do or say exactly what they think and feel at the moment without worrying whether it is something they should or shouldn't do based on what others believe. They do what is right for them. This is their natural right to be spontaneous and uninhibited when it comes to you and your dreams, when you are your best in a safe environment with people you like and trust. Sometimes after a glass or two of wine, you return to your natural childlike state of fearlessness without a care in the world. You become completely spontaneous again, expressing yourself naturally and openly without worrying too much about what people think or feel, or how the main two negative habit patterns due to the mistakes parents make, especially destructive criticism and physical punishment. Children start learning negative habit patterns at a young age. These negative habit patterns then become lodged in the child's subconscious mind and determine their personality throughout life. In psychology, there are two main negative habit patterns: the inhibitory negative habit pattern and the compulsive negative habit pattern. We call them fear of failure and fear of rejection. They are the main obstacles to success and happiness for you or anyone. The first one, the fear of failure, the inhibitory negative habit pattern, is learned when the child is yelled at or physically punished for attempting or trying new things. Because children are naturally curious, they want to touch, try, feel, and experience everything in their own little world. They are completely fearless. They will grab sharp knives. They will poke at the edges of buildings and run into cars. Parents should spend the early years of their children's lives preventing them from accidentally killing themselves. In exasperation, parents will say things like, "Stop, don't touch that," or "Get away from." Their worst parents will often physically punish children, spanking them in an attempt to discourage them from experimenting and trying new things. I can't be it. This soon creates in the child the fear of failure, which expresses itself in the thought and feeling, "I can't." When the child has been destructively criticized or physically punished during early childhood, this fear of failure can continue into adult life. Whenever the adult is faced with a new opportunity to try something new or different, the automatic reaction, usually experienced in the solar plexus, will be, "I can't." For the rest of the person's life, the fear of failure will have a major influence in determining what they do, where they go, the jobs they choose, the social circle they build around them, the way they raise their children and treat their spouse, and just about every other factor in their life. The fear of failure hangs over the adult like a dark cloud. Many adults react to the possibility of failure exactly like a child who is afraid of being spanked for doing something wrong. Remember the example about the garden? The idea, "I can't," is a weed that needs to be pulled out of the garden. That automatic reaction doesn't mean that the idea is true. It means that it's a pattern of thinking that has become a habit, and habits can be changed through awareness and determination. You can develop new and better ways of thinking and reacting. You can eventually become a completely positive person. 26. The fear of rejection. The second block to fulfilling your potential is the compulsive negative habit pattern, the fear of rejection or criticism. This habit pattern is learned when the child becomes the victim of conditional love in an attempt to control and manipulate their children. Parents often make their love conditional on the children doing exactly what the parent wants when they want it in the way they want it. The growing child, who is dependent on their parents' love for their sense of security, soon discovers that they're safe only when they do what mom and dad want. They begin to think, "I don't do what they want, they won't love me, and I won't be safe," since a child's need for security is the overwhelming need. In the formative years of their life, they soon begin to adjust their behavior to their parents' demands. This is expressed in the thinking, I have to do what mom and dad want, I have to do whatever they please, I have to, that they want them to do. The pattern continues as the child grows older. The inhibitory negative habit pattern, the fear of rejection and criticism triggered by the threat of withdrawal of love or approval, causes them to become hypersensitive to the opinions of others. In extreme cases, the adult cannot make a decision without being sure that the other people in their life completely approve of that decision. They always have to get someone or several people's approval before they can buy a new item of clothing or car. They feel very uncomfortable at the very thought of making any kind of decision where someone else will disapprove or criticize them. The compulsive negative habit pattern is felt as stress or pain in the back of the body when a person thinks, I have to do this. Their muscles tense starting in the neck and moving down the back. As an adult, when you feel pressure to perform, to please someone else, to get a job done on time so your boss doesn't get angry, you may start to feel pain all the way down your spine. But when the job is completed, the pain disappears. A few words from Christina, 27. The fear of rejection and the desire for a happy relationship with others is an important theme in therapy. I once worked with a young woman in her 20s who couldn't make decisions because she was afraid it would be the wrong one and that someone would disapprove of her. The idea of making any decision caused her extreme anxiety. As a result, she struggled in her relationships. She was so sensitive to the other person's approval or disapproval that she could never make a decision independently. The problem was that she would try to do what she thought the other person wanted her to. Inevitably, the relationship fell apart because there was no authenticity between them. Over time, she learned that in order to make an authentic connection with another person, she needed to be in an authentic relationship with her true self. Her fear of rejection was deeply rooted in her. She couldn't accept that she was a truly valuable and important person. I encouraged her to accept the idea that she wanted to be with someone who loved her as she was, not a fake version of her. She accepted this idea wholeheartedly. She started dating new people and remained as authentic as possible. She eventually found herself in a relationship with a great man who truly loves and respects her. They have been together for over 6 months. She still has difficulty signing off on her likes and dislikes, aversions, but feels much more comfortable with the idea that if she makes a choice and it doesn't work out, there may be another choice next time. Love deficiency. In some third world countries, children grow up in areas where there is not enough calcium in their diet. Because of this calcium deficiency, the bones in their legs never form properly, leaving them bow-legged, unable to fully straighten their lower limbs. A child who has experienced calcium deficiency in childhood can be clearly recognized in adulthood by their bow-leggedness, but a child who has been raised with a love deficiency does not show it so obviously on the outside. It is only when you interact with unhappy, frustrated, angry, or dishonest people that you realize something is wrong. Virtually all adult problems, and also adolescent problems, can be traced back to withholding or a lack of love during the early years of childhood. When you add destructive criticism to the mix, very often produces an adult with both negative habit patterns, the inhibitory and the compulsive, who go through life saying, I can't, but I have to, or I have to, but I can't. Virtually all of the negative emotions that prevent a person from advancing into adulthood are planted as seeds by parental criticism or neglect early on. When a child is highly sensitive, they are completely helpless and ignorant of what is going on. When you see a dysfunctional adult, you see the results of a dysfunctional childhood changing your self-concept. Once you know the source of your negative emotions, how do you go back to your subconscious mind and correct them? This brings us to the role your self-concept plays in how you think and feel. Your self-concept is made up of the package of beliefs, primarily from others, that you have assimilated about yourself and accepted as true. These beliefs form your reality. Whether they're based on fact or not, you will always act on the outside in accordance with what you believe about yourself on the inside. Your self-concept is made up of three parts: your ideal, everything, your image, your self-esteem. Let's examine each one in order. Your ideal is made up of the values, virtues, and qualities that you admire most in yourself and in other people. It is a composite of the person you would like to be in the future. Your ideal is also shaped by your hopes, your dreams, your plans, your goals, and your aspirations. The more things you want to do and have in your life, the more powerful influence your ideal self will have on your behavior. Successful and happy people are very clear about their goals and ideals. They take a lot of time to think about what they value most. They stand for and believe. They establish integrity as the organizing principle of their lives and continually strive to improve themselves to become more and more of what they are truly capable of becoming. Unhappy and unsuccessful people have an unclear or non-existent ideal self. They don't stand for or believe in anything in particular. They will compromise their values and their principles for the slightest advantage or benefit. They're never happy. Be clear about your values. One of the exercises we do in our seminars is called values clarification. We help individual participants choose the most important values in their lives, and then we develop plans for them to live in accordance with those values every hour of every day. Once people are clear about their values and their ideal self, their whole life begins to change. A person with clear ideals engages in specific behaviors. Cause and effect changes their beliefs. Their reality alters their expectations. More positive and begin to attract more people and more resources into your life that are in harmony with the ideal of the best person you can be. Your whole self-image is the second part of your self-concept, is your whole image. This is often called your inner mirror. It is what you observe before any event in your life to determine how you should behave. Happy people have positive self-images when they visualize and imagine themselves in any part of their work or personal life. They see themselves as confident, competent, loved, and effective. In the psychology of self-image, it is said that the person you see is the person you will become. Everything better in your life begins with a better image, and your mental images are completely under your control. You can change your image by feeding your mind positive images of the person you would like to be, acting the way you would like to act. The work done in self-image psychology by B. in the 1950s transformed the lives of thousands of people. They learned that when they visualized themselves as being the best they could, their subconscious mind would alter their body language, tone of voice, and personality to be consistent with a new mental image. When you're mentally healthy, there's always a dynamic tension between the way you see yourself today, your image, and your ideal self, the way you want to be in the future. When you have a clear ideal self, it is easier to continually improve your thoughts, your behaviors, and your activities so that they are increasingly in harmony with the best person you can be. Your self-esteem, the third and most important part of your self-concept, is your self-esteem. It is the foundation of your personality. It is the reactor core of your emotional energy generator. It determines the quality, the energy, and the strength of your personality. The best definition of self-esteem is how much you like yourself. The more you will be in every part of your life, the more you like yourself, the more others will like you, the more they will want to buy from you, be associated with you, be married to you, and have you as a friend throughout your life. You will find that people with the highest self-esteem have the most positive personalities and are the most popular. Wherever they go, there seems to be a direct correlation between self-esteem, success, and happiness in every area of life. Fast reaction time here is the big breakthrough. So as you become what you think most of the time, you also become what you tell yourself most of the time. Most of your emotions are determined by the way you talk to yourself throughout the day. When you talk to yourself in a strong and positive way, using positive affirmations about the person you ideally would like to be, these commands are accepted by your subconscious mind and immediately influence your thoughts. Feelings and your behaviors, the most powerful words you can use to build your self-esteem, are I like myself. Every time you say I like myself, your self-esteem increases. As your self-esteem increases, your image improves. As your image improves, you feel like you're moving towards the ideal person that you want to be. Your complete personality comes in a balance. You begin to evolve and grow in a positive way. Take control of your evolution as a person. 31. Wonderfully, no matter what happened to you in early childhood to diminish your self-esteem or damage your image, because as an adult, you can take complete control of the evolution of your own personality. You can make a decision right now to become a completely positive person. Start today by repeating the magic words, I like myself, over and over again, 10, 20, 50 times a day. Whenever you feel unhappy, worried, or distressed for any reason, you can cancel the negative emotions by repeating, I liked, until the negative feelings disappear. No matter what happened to you as a child, you can go back as an adult and reprogram your unconscious feelings about yourself by increasing your self-esteem more and more. The more you like yourself, the better you will be in every area of your life. The more you like yourself, the happier and more confident you will become. The more you like yourself, the more optimistic and joyful you will be. The more you like yourself, the more your life will change for the better. Exercise. Write a list of the 3 qualities that you like most about yourself. For example, because you are a good person. What are your best qualities? What makes you a valuable friend, spouse, or parent? Whenever you think of these qualities, you can look at yourself in the mirror and say with conviction, I liked 32-33 Chapter 2. What stops you? The greatest things, great thoughts, discoveries, inventions have usually been nurtured in deprivation, often weighted by sadness, and finally established with difficulty. Samuel smiles. Every child comes into the world with pure potential, with the capacity to become an extraordinary person, the ability to do wonderful things, and enjoy high levels of health, happiness, and prosperity throughout life. People today can live longer and better lives than has ever been possible for the human race. And with modern advances in medicine and knowledge, life expectancy is increasing every year. As I mentioned in the previous chapter, children are born complete optimists, fearless and uninhibited, enthusiastic and curious, eager to touch, taste, smell, and feel everything around them. Have you ever seen a negative baby? Mistakes that parents make. However, at an early age, as a result of mistakes that parents make, children soon begin to experience destructive criticism and a lack of love. These 2 behaviors, either alone or in conjunction, are major sources of happiness and dysfunction in later life. Destructive criticism is the single greatest enemy of human potential. It could be argued that its effects are even worse than cancer or heart disease, as those diseases affect the physical body and can sometimes lead to the deterioration and death of the individual. Destructive criticism kills a person's soul from the start, but leaves the body walking. When parents try, controlling their children by giving them love and then taking it away as a form of punishment sows the seeds of insecurity deep within them. This insecurity manifests itself in a plethora of emotional and mental problems. 34. From feelings of self-doubt, anxiety, worry, and a strong sense of inadequacy and undeserving of anything good in life, to lack of motivation, fear of not living up to others' expectations, and striving for perfection, inability to confront problems or deal with conflict effectively. The 2 main negative emotions. There are many negative emotions, but almost all of them are deeply rooted. 2 main: fear of failure and fear of rejection. Fear of failure manifests in adult life as a fear of lost people who have been destructively criticized. As children, fear loss of money, loss of health, loss of position, loss of security, and the loss of the love of other people, no matter how much they achieve in their careers. They are haunted by the fear of having it all taken away from them and having to start again with nothing fear of rejection is experienced as a fear of criticism, which can become so extreme that the individual becomes hypersensitive to thoughts, words, opinions, and even looks from other people, including strangers. In addition, people feel fear of disapproval unless they like those who wish to impress. The fear of rejection leads to having the loss of respect for people who are important. For us, people with this fear are afraid of shame or ridicule of any kind, especially in the presence of others. The death among the main fears of life. A few words from Christina fought with the fear of speaking in public and recently learned an incredibly valuable concept thanks to my father Lona. When you're preparing to speak or present in public and the scenic panic begins to appear, the key is to convince you that your big or small audience wants you. We often ask two questions in our seminars to help people see the role that fear plays in their life and in their decisions. We first ask that today you were financially independent and that you had all the money you could spend for the rest of your life, what would you do differently what you would get? Or what would you get what you would start? Or stop asking this question can be a real revelation. There are many situations in your life that you would change immediately if you were not afraid of poverty at all, if you had all the money you would like, or you will probably need drastic changes in your life. They accept lower level work than they are really able to perform in exchange for security, remain in unhappy relationships instead of risking to be alone or being single. Choose friends who are passive and not critical so that they can be sure of never being criticized, ashamed, or rejected. A few words of Christina. The fear of not having or not sufficient is one of the most common obstacles that prevents people from pretending a professional training workshop attended. One of the activities was to identify a thing that prevented us from moving forward. From this group, 90% of the attendees felt more training, more experience, or more knowledge to be more successful in their field. Before the activity, each had explained our level of professional success. Impressed me what each person had achieved. It was surprising to hear that even those with the most impressive curriculums doubting themselves. The big question, the second question we ask, is what you would dare to do if you knew that you cannot fail. If you were guaranteed success in anything, whether it is large or small in the long or short time, you would fix. This question helps people identify the fears that are stopping them. If you had the success guaranteed in anything you try, would probably commit to your desire of the heart, the wonderful thing that you could do 36 with your life, and for which you were born. The hierarchy of needs. The great psychologist reversed the study of psychology at the end of the 1940s, discerning the reasons for their problems. Most use it entered the happy people and the characteristics they shared among other ideas more developed by their famous hierarchy of needs, concluded that each person has a series of 5 basic needs that must be met in order so that the person develops their full potential. At the base of the pyramid of the hierarchy of needs is survival, the preservation of life, the most powerful impulse of human nature. Once a person has assured the survival, is graduated from the next level of needs. Safety. This need is satisfied when the individual has enough food. The individual has satisfied his survival and security needs. Goes to the third level of the hierarchy, the satisfaction of the needs of belonging. Each person has a deep desire to be part of a group of people, to be and accepted by them. This is a need as important for an individual as the food, the drink, and the refuge. Depending on the others, it is important that you tell you about your need for human contact and belonging, to understand how to advance when you feel. We depend on our main caregiver for physical survival and emotional comfort. As we make adults, we transfer our attachments to our peers or other important people and depend on these relationships for our emotional health and even for our survival. The reason why the fear of rejection is so powerful is that the idea of being completely only feels emotionally threatening for life. We depend so much on the acceptance and support of others that we learn to repress our true needs to keep our friends and colleagues. About 37. A few words from Christina. I worked with a young man who had learned that to keep his parents happy and attentive to him, he had to repress his own needs and maintain a cooperative attitude. and maintain a cooperative attitude, and maintain a cooperative attitude, and maintain a cooperative attitude. Relax. She had discovered that when she had positive or negative strong emotions, her parents did not respond well away from him, soon learned to suppress their feelings in reactions, not to lose approval of their parents. When he grew versus needs of being, these first three types of needs, survival, security, and belonging, are defined as deficiency needs in their absence. The individual cares about satisfying them, excluding everything else. But once the individual moves toward the satisfaction of the higher order needs, or needs of being, the fourth of which is the self-esteem, we almost do today in life is to achieve feelings of self-esteem or to compensate for your lack of your self-esteem, how much you like yourself. It lies in the core of your personality and largely determines the quality of your emotional life. In the hierarchy of Maslow, once the individual's needs are satisfied, higher the satisfaction of the self-realization needs, as defined, is to become everything that one is able to become. Needs greater later, it came to the conclusion that there are two even higher needs.